Manhattan Chamber Chair Cory Johnson, a lot of other tenants from this building, and tenant leaders from Chelsea. We have Sam, the tenant lawyer, leader of our city, Sam Himmelst. So thank you very much for having you here. The lawyer for the Chelsea Hotel Tenants Association, Janet Paulson, will be hearing from these individuals later, as well as obviously lots of tenants from the Chelsea Hotel. Since its inception, the Chelsea Hotel has been making history. But we're here today, unfortunately, not to celebrate the legacy of artists, musicians, creative spirits, Chelsea residents, tenants who passed through these doors and lived in this building. We're here today, unfortunately, to address how far the Chelsea Hotel has fallen. The Chelsea Hotel, once symbolic of all the West Side and Chelsea had to offer, is in disarray. These pictures show mold covers its walls. Asbestos literally lurks in the air shaft. Rust is deteriorating cabinets and sinks and appliances. And yet, the landlord of one of Chelsea's most iconic and important buildings has done less than nothing to improve these conditions. In fact, turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to them, which only makes them worse and the conditions of the tenants and their lives worse and worse. For months, if not years, tenants have tried valiantly with no success to get Joseph Chedrin to do not just what is right, but what as an owner he is legally required, obligated to do. What is that? To put an end to dangerous and unsafe living conditions in the Chelsea Hotel, to live up to his legal obligation as a landlord. When tenants' repeated calls for repairs fell on deaf ears, the Chelsea Hotel Tenants Association did the right thing. They took action and they filed a lawsuit to demand that the landlord take responsibility for the health and safety of his tenants. Those tenants who for decades have proudly called the Chelsea Hotel and the Chelsea community home, commissioned an environmental inspection and a testing report. That report doesn't just detail where asbestos and mold are located. The report responsibly lays out a plan for safe removal, a plan for bringing the Chelsea Hotel back to a livable, safe, and legally required state.
Yeah, thank you.
But in response, what has the landlord done? What has happened? Nothing. We're here today, Community Board 4, Senator Duane, Assemblymember Godfrey, the entire Chelsea community, to take action in support of the Chelsea Hotel tenants. Negotiations began with Joseph Chedrin and the Chelsea Hotel Tenants Association. We were hopeful for a brief period of time. Unfortunately, tragically, those negotiations have fallen apart. Why? Because the landlord refuses to follow the recommendations of this report. Tomorrow, the Chelsea Tenant Association will be in court once again to fight for their safety and for their legal rights. And I want to be clear, we are all here today in solidarity with the tenants in the action that they will be taking in court. We know that the court will rule on exactly what the cleanup needs to be. We know that the court will rule that the tenants have been wronged and this great building needs to be made livable again. So we're also here today to send a message to Joseph Chedrin that when that ruling and plan is sent out by the court, we will continue to stand with these tenants. We will watch the work that you do under a microscopic lens. And if you fail to follow what is required, about the Department of Health, the Department of Housing Preservation and Development, and any and every other city and state agency that has jurisdiction in this bill. We will simply not let our neighbors be treated this way. We will not allow this building to be lost as a part of Chelsea's history, but most importantly, we won't let these homes be lost as affordable housing in our great neighborhood.
Yeah. We have a right to live too.
Zoe and all of the tenants in the Tenants Association, no one could have blamed you if you just packed up and left. But you love your homes, you love Chelsea, and you're going to stay put and fight for what is right. And we thank you and support you in that effort. Let me next call on someone who has long worked with the tenants here, but really all of the tenants in Chelsea on the west side, making our neighborhood one that believes in and supports our tenant neighbors, State Senator Tom Duane.
Yeah, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely.
High praise from one of the most outstanding tennis leaders our city has ever known. Every tenant in New York City, every citizen in New York City is entitled to a habitable home. And a habitable home means no mold and no asbestos and no rust dripping off of every water faucet in the place. I don't know what this landlord thinks, because mold and asbestos does not disappear on its own, and this new landlord must take immediate responsibility to remediate the conditions that make the Chelsea Hotel a place that is not as habitable as it must be for all of the tenants who live here. We are a community, we're a neighborhood that sticks together. We're in solidarity with the tenants here in the Chelsea Hotel. They, the people in the Chelsea Hotel, are as valuable to us as is this beautiful building. You know what? We are going to fight until this building is safe and secure for every tenant and anyone who comes to live here in the future. Thank you.
Woo! Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Tom.
Let me next call on someone else who has been standing incredibly strongly with the tenants here and tenants throughout our neighborhood, Assemblymember Dick Back.
This is what happens when an owner puts its right to make a lot of money over the right of tenants to live peacefully in their homes.
Yes. Thank you.
Tenants have got to be protected against asbestos and mold and disruption and hazards to their life and health and safety. And unfortunately, Chetrit, as an owner and developer, has a pretty shoddy reputation with tenants and communities for their record of how they do or do not protect their properties and the people who live in their properties and the people who pass by their properties in the community. We're not going to stand for it. The residents of the Chelsea Hotel are not going to stand for it. And we're going to put a stop to the kind of shoddy work and disregard of life, health, and safety that this developer is showing.
Woo!
Next call on somebody who I know we are all incredibly grateful to for all of the work she's done and all the fortitude that she's shown, the Chelsea Hotel Tenants Association President, Zoe Pappas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeffrey Lafrancois, Sarah Meyer Gilbert, and Jose Conley, who has been doing an extraordinary job for us because he put all of us together. We invited them the day when it was mold and toxicity, and they could see with their own eyes. Because what we have decided to do when we created the association is not to fight the repair of the hotel, but to find the way it was done, to find the fact that everybody wanted to see us out. And the fact that I decided to do it in a legal way with our lawyers and Himmelst and Gerald Carlson, who have become part of this Chelsea family. What we've been doing all these months was within legality, within stuff of the past, and we show a very civilized and understanding behavior. Therefore, at this very moment, as you already know, we are deciding to try to do. But for some other people are going to talk and explain to you more what has been going on, I'm going to make an announcement. Because of the extraordinary dedication of our politicians, community board for, and people who believe in something, and that something is that humanity which keeps all of us together. A friend of mine from Donington, Bartholomew Miller, created for this association a charitable trust for historic preservation. We are deciding to work with our politicians, with all the communities, with all the buildings which are landmarks, and also with all the tenants who think that they don't have recourse. So we are going to hear about that in detail, but I want to thank again everybody who has been so helpful to us and basically influence us in the best way to be creative and to bring people who believe in preserving architecture, culture, legacies, art, and I think that I mentioned all of it. So thank you very much, and I hope that we'll see each other many times and we will find our fun. Thank you.
The elected officials and the school board office in particular. I want to thank her for singling out and taking Condi in my office. I know it's had tremendous work. And the next one, Lieutenant Paulson, is the lawyer for the
Thank you. My name is Janet Carlson, and myself and Sam Himmelst represent the Chelsea Tenants Association. In August 2011, Mr. Treat bought the Chelsea, and shortly thereafter began a massive demolition project which spread dust contaminated with lead, silica, and other hazardous material throughout the building, jeopardizing the tenants' health and safety. Pipes burst in several parts of the building, spewing mold throughout. After many attempts to negotiate with the landlord yielded no fruit, the Chelsea Tenants Association began a lawsuit against the landlords in December 2011, seeking an order to correct the hazardous conditions of the building. After the Department of Environmental Protection issued a slew of violations for illegal asbestos removal, and the landlords refused to turn over documents pertaining to this, the tenants began a second lawsuit against the landlords in February 2012. 4 months, the tenants negotiated in good faith with the landlords, attempting to enter into an agreement with them to correct the hazardous conditions of the Chelsea Hotel. The tenants agreed again and again to extend the deadlines and agreed to concession after concession to get the deal done. Finally, after long and hazardous negotiations, the parties' attorneys entered into a final agreement, and the tenants yielded a sigh of relief. However, the landlords then immediately insisted on a whole nother set of changes. Enough is enough. The Tenants Association refuses to play a game with ever-changing goalposts. Tomorrow we are in court with the landlords, and unless they sign the agreement negotiated in good faith with the tenants, as is, the tenants will continue their battle to protect their health and safety at trial in housing court. Thank you very much.
And our final speaker is somebody who I know I speak on behalf of Tom and Dick. We really want to thank so much for all of his work on this issue and so many others, but in particular helping the tenants here organize and build broad community support for their efforts. The chair of Community Board 4, Cory Johnson.
Thank you, Speaker Quinn. Thank you, Senator Duane, Senator Godfrey. A big thank you to Sam and to Janet for all their advocacy on behalf of the tenants, to Zoe Pappas and all the tenants here at the Chelsea Hotel. And I want to again thank Jose Condi, who has been amazing in Speaker Quinn's office. Enough has been said about the horrendous, unacceptable conditions inside the apartments of the Chelsea Hotel. But what I want to relate today is in Community Board 4's months of dealings with Joseph Chatreet, his lawyers, his lobbyists, and his development staff, there have been repeated misrepresentations, deceptions, and I wouldn't be too far from calling outright lies that are presented to the board, to elected officials, and to the tenants here. When they first came before us, when we asked about many of these issues, they didn't have answers. When we asked for basic answers to what was going to happen to the tenants of the hotel, they didn't have answers. And to string tenants along who have been part of this hotel and this community for such a long time is completely unacceptable, and it spits in the face of this community. I want to say there's been proposed a rooftop addition to the roof of the Chelsea Hotel. When they came before us, we asked, what is going to be on the roof? And the answer was, we don't know. Who builds something on the roof of the hotel and doesn't know what it is? That is a singular, small, but larger point in the dealings that we've had with this developer and with this landlord. We stand with the tenants here today. We are so lucky in Chelsea to have such wonderful elected officials that stand up on behalf of tenants on a very regular basis. And my hope is that they can preserve the way of life for tenants that have lived in this hotel, and that when it's all done, and this is corrected or remediated, we can actually have a function celebrated with the tenants with Patty Smith, not with the developer. And I want to be there when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
demolition that is performed in the buildings. They're planning a massive demolition project, as you can see. It's done in a manner that controls the dust and hazard of the tenants, and that all of the hazardous conditions that are in Chelsea, lead, silica dust, mold, are taken care of appropriately.
And what's the demolition project?
Well, as the landlord has filed, I lost count, perhaps 14 different permits, contradictory permits in the Department of Buildings, as you heard, Community Board, Community Board 4 mentioned, they're planning a rooftop addition, they're planning on putting in new elevators, they're planning on demolishing the chases, the pipes, what are they called? The risers,
Interior structure.
they're planning massive demolition and construction at this building.
So Sally, the focus is the focus is focus, I think, and we'll let you say for a second, legally is twofold. One, immediately address the existing conditions, i.e. the mold, and agree to a specific laid out plan of how we're going to do that. Two, there is, by all permits filed with the city, by Cory said coming before board, et cetera, we know this landlord is planning to do a lot more work. We don't know, because they've not been as forthcoming as they should be about exactly why they're doing all that work, but there's also a legal action around how that work will have to be conducted in a way that is safe and legally. It'll be under the court.
Yeah, what I want, when the streets took over, I'm Sam Himmelst.
Sam Himmelst, he's one of the other lawyers for the association. It's his firm that's representing the tenant.
When the Streets took over this building, there were 160 occupied rooms. They immediately stopped renting the transient rooms and began renovating all of the vacant apartments. That's the demolition that they're referring to. In their filings with the buildings department, they represented to the buildings department that this was an unoccupied building, despite the fact that there are 80 permanent tenants living in this building. So that's just what Cory was talking about before, this track record of deception. And we don't know what they are planning to do ultimately with the hotel, but we're assuming that they're going to try to turn it into some sort of a luxury hotel and not what it's always been.
Thank you. Yes.
Are they actually allowed to turn some apartments into hotel rooms?
They probably are, yes, because the Chelsea is classified as a hotel, so and those 80 rooms that they're working on have historically been rented out as transient rooms, so they probably are. The other thing that they've done is they've filed, despite their assurances to the contrary, that when they first took over, they filed approximately 15 eviction cases against long-term tenants, claiming in most cases that they're not stabilized, when in fact they are. My firm is defending 3 or 4 of those. Some of the others have other lawyers, but so they're trying to get as many of the long-term tenants out as possible. They're offering tenants buyouts. It's kind of classic harassment. You know, you come in, you make conditions miserable, you start eviction cases against people, and then you dangle money in front of them in the hope that they'll take it because their lives are so miserable here. It's a kind of harassment we used to see in the 70s and the 80s. It's come back in the Chelsea.
And you know, for the tenants that Sam is representing and others in these eviction cases, which are just completely, Sam is right, harassment, completely illegal attempts to evict people, those tenants are having to find their own resources to hire Sam and Janet and other lawyers, as opposed to the landlord who just builds this into his building, into his business plan. He just builds harassment into the building plan for the money he has for lawyers. Any other questions from the press? Yes, I can't hear you.
Will the city council attempt to overturn the landmarks commission decision?
I'm not sure that we have the authority to overturn that particular decision. Melanie, do you know whether that's the landmarks decision? Is that something that comes to us, or is that a final? No, we do not, unfortunately.
They have overturned the landmarks commission's decision in the past.
It depends on what type of decision. If you look at the charter, there are some landmarks decisions that come to the council, some that don't. Unfortunately, I think far too few come to the council, and we submitted testimony to the Charter Review Commission about that. So unfortunately, as I thought, this is not one that will even make its way for confirmation or turnover by the council, unfortunately. But all of the elected officials did submit testimony and tried to fight that determination, as did the community board. But unfortunately, not that forward. Any other questions from the press? I mean, obviously, we obviously going to engage all of the city and to whatever degree we can state agencies in this battle as well, and to try to get them to stop and make life harder. Unfortunately, things aren't as easy with apartment buildings as we'd like them to be.
It's overbuilt. the Chelsea Hotel is currently built, and I believe it's up to, it can be built to 7.5. It's right now built to 9.56. The Chelsea Hotel is overbuilt. So before this even began, so to come forward and try to put a rooftop addition on top of this hotel with 300 people partying on the roof of the Chelsea Hotel
God, what a joke.
is a willful misrepresentation of what's allowed. And to not point that out in your DOB filings or with landmarks, again shows the track record of misrepresentation, deception that the streets have shown.
In other words, today, this beautiful building could not be built. It's a beautiful building and it's landmark, and we're happy that we have it. And the issue that is so important is that this landlord, this developer, could simply, as a good faith first step, agree to what he agreed to. But he won't do that now. Now, he's changed the rules of the game. He said he would agree to a contract, if you will, legally binding before a judge, a way to remediate the problems of the building, and then he broke his promise, he backed up, and said, "We'll sign it," and that's what we're here for. That is to fix up the conditions which have been, in large part, caused by this development.
And we'll use every agency we can to do that. Thank you. Any other questions?